I just saw the other night Project Hail Mary, directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller and starring Ryan Gosling, based on the original novel by Andy Weir, who was also the writer of The Martian, which was also made into a movie starring Matt Damon. It's a story of this guy named Ryan Grace who wakes up on this spaceship somewhere in the farthest reaches of space with no memory of how he got there. And as the film goes on, it starts to piece together how exactly he ended up there. But along the way, he gets a surprise visitor from an alien creature who he later calls Rocky. And now we have our movie, Project Hail Mary. To be honest, I'm kind of struggling with where to start on this one. Everybody on here has talked about this, and all the praise that I could probably give to this has been said already by other people. More than likely, you guys want to hear my thoughts on it. I'm just going to get right to it. This movie is awesome. Absolutely incredible. Not only is it the best film I've seen so far in 2026, this is probably one of the best films that I've seen in a while. I've seen some good movies over the past couple of years, but this one was something so special that I can't really fully articulate just how and why. I know I may sound like I'm overhyping it or just going along with the current as with everybody else, maybe with a couple of exceptions here and there. I don't really know how to accurately describe it, but there was this huge sense of awe, wonder, and joy that I felt throughout the entire runtime. Now, I've heard some people say that this is one of the most original films that has been made in recent years. Not quite. For starters, this is based off of a book. How many times have we seen books made into movies or shows? Set in the farthest reaches of space, dealing with an alien, an end-of-the-world scenario? None of those things are new. But it's how the story is told by Drew Goddard, the writer, and the directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Now, by the time I post this, more than likely a good amount of people have seen it by now, but if you still haven't seen it, you don't have to worry. I won't go into too much detail, but the previews are solid and not giving you the full context as to what's happening. The plot of this movie is that Ryan Gosling, who plays Ryan Grace, he's a science teacher who's recruited by these government agents and these scientists, where he has to figure out how to solve this problem of dealing with the astrophage that's feeding off of the sun. The sun will eventually die in about 30 years' time, therefore causing the world to freeze. Given the title of this movie, this is literally a Hail Mary pass into outer space where they have to make this possible. And if it doesn't work, well, no surprise, the human race is screwed. This movie is basically Interstellar meets The Martian. Whereas in Interstellar, Cooper has to go into space with these other astronauts to figure out a suitable replacement for the human population from the planet Earth, along with the humorous style and the optimistic worldview of The Martian. Now, as opposed to The Martian, there's really not much focus given on supporting characters. It's all focused on Ryan Gosling and his interactions with Rocky. Now that I think about it, it's actually kind of like Castaway, where Chuck Nolan talks to Wilson, the volleyball. And I guess you could say kind of like the movie Arrival, where you see from off-screen the alien's hand comes off to touch the window. And 127 Hours comparison is how James Franco manages to record himself, or at least act like he's recording himself on camera for how many days he's been inside the canyon. The character of Mark Watney in The Martian does the same thing, as he's slowly calculating how to process his food and how much he's going to take each day in order for help to arrive on time. Grace, on the other hand, is not afforded that luxury. Everybody's talked about the visuals, but to go into that, this is one of the most beautifully gorgeous looking films that I've ever laid eyes on. And that's a huge credit to the cinematographer Greg Fraser, who's been the DP for certain films like The Batman and Rogue One. I'm not a fan of Rogue One, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't some amazing imagery in that film. And as far as his work on The Batman, watch the movie for yourself and you'll see what I mean. If he doesn't get at least nominated for a Golden Globe or an Oscar for this, there is no justice in this world. Not since Interstellar or even last year's Fantastic Four First Steps have I seen space imagery look this good. You've seen some of the shots in the trailers, like when they go across certain planets or they come across this one planet that has this greenish cloud gas floating over it, or even this shot right here. My jaw was literally hanging to the floor. Coming from me, this kind of reaction is very rare, but when that happened, guys, I'm telling you, there are no words for that. It is a moment that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. Again, I may sound like I'm overhyping it. I gotta be honest with you, this is truly, I think, something really special. Not only that, the musical score / soundtrack, also another indication of how this is Martian and Interstellar mixed into one. Daniel Pemberton, if I got the name correct, he's the composer for this movie, and he's known for his work in the Spider-Verse films, which also Phil Lord and Chris Miller had a creative hand in. Some of the music I found to be very soothing, but also white-knuckling in certain moments, like when the tensions are really high. Add that with some of the musical choices, again, easily reminiscent of The Martian. And I don't know about any of you guys, but whenever I watch a movie that's set in outer space, even Star Wars or Star Trek have this effect on me somewhat. It really puts into perspective for me just how vast and huge the universe really is. And it makes me think of my own problems and my own struggles in life, where I go, oh, yeah, I'm just this one speck of dust in this grand universe. Joe, but what's the matter with you? Why are you so worked up over the smallest stuff? Almost kind of reminds me of the story of Job, when he calls out to God saying, "What are you doing? Tell me the truth." And God gets a little heated and takes him on a tour of the cosmos saying, "Where were you when I did this or did that?" Kind of veering off topic here, but I'm just saying that when I see a movie that's set in outer space, That's the kind of feeling that I get. Segueing into the story and characters, it takes a special kind of actor like Ryan Gosling to carry this movie. We've seen stuff like this with Tom Hanks in Castaway, or even Matt Damon in The Martian. Now, the luxury that Matt Damon has in The Martian, he has a plethora of supporting characters back on Earth at NASA when they're trying to figure out how to get him back home. And there are supporting characters in this movie, yes, but it's all mostly focused on Ryan Gosling. The film relies on him to carry it, and he manages to do that in spades and then some. My relationship with Ryan Gosling is somewhat weird, I guess. Let's be real, okay? This guy is obviously a heartthrob. I mean, he's famous for movies like The Notebook, Crazy Stupid Love, Remember the Titans, Ides of March, and Barbie, where he played Ken. And also The Nice Guys, which is probably my favorite movie that he's been in besides this one, actually. Admittedly, he has this really interesting way of drawing the audience's attention to him. He's known for his self-deprecating humor, which he was able to showcase in The Nice Guys, especially when it comes to his screams, if you remember the mariachi scream from The Nice Guys. Did you cut yourself? I'm dealing with an injury! Clearly, Ryan Gosling is a big box office draw for some people. All the humorous beats that are sprinkled throughout here, he manages to hit them at the right time, but he's able to deliver on all the dramatic moments as well. And wisely, the film takes it very seriously and doesn't throw in some stupid joke to diffuse the tension. And a lot of that comes to his relationship with this alien, Rocky, who's in a similar predicament as he is. Not gonna go into too much specifics, but they're both mirror images of each other, and they're both trying to save their own home planets. James Ortiz, who's the lead puppeteer of this creature, he also does the voice of the character, because Ryan Gosling manages to create a voice for him through his computer and how he's able to translate what he's saying. And the bromance that blossoms between Rocky and Grace, it threw me off guard in the right ways. This is one of the most endearing friendships that I've ever laid eyes on, among the likes of Elliot and E.T. From the thumbs down, which he tries to show him how to do a thumbs up, but it ends up being a thumbs down anyway, or fist my bump.
That's not going away anytime soon.
And the odds are it probably never will. Now, besides Ryan Gosling, I didn't recognize anybody else in the supporting cast. Eva Stratt, who's played by Sandra Hüller, is the head of the Hail Mary Project and Grace's superior. She manages to maintain this stoic demeanor throughout the movie whenever we cut back to the past and how things led up to the present storyline. But you've seen this moment in the trailer where she sings Sign of the Times by Harry Styles. It's the one moment where she lets her guard down in order to find some sort of enjoyment and happiness in an otherwise doom and gloom situation. And I think that kind of fits into the movie's overall optimistic tone. I mean, with this end of the world scenario, it'd be way too easy for a movie to just be all sad and doom and gloomy. But I think the film's optimistic view kind of works in its favor, because it shows you no matter how dire the situation is, there's always a reason to keep going, even when things don't look that way in the moment. Now, as far as the flashbacks, this is something that we've seen many times throughout pieces of entertainment, but this is all wisely done in relation to what's going on in the present storyline, because he slowly starts to put the pieces together as to how he ends up on the ship in the first place. In fact, the opening scene of the movie where he wakes up from the bed, trying to get away from the robots and hearing the AI voice saying, strongly advised to go back to your gurney, or whatever it says, and how he freaks out and wobbles away, that was a big indicator for me, where I thought, oh, so this is what kind of movie we're getting. Okay. Count me in. Ryan Gosling, I think, is a genius at physical comedy, believe it or not. Similar to the likes of Daniel Stern in Home Alone or Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future. But as I mentioned with the flashbacks, they're all done for a purpose in how we slowly put the pieces together. Phil Lord and Chris Miller wisely don't tell us everything right off the bat. They slowly put the pieces together and trust us, the audience, to go along for the ride. As I mentioned earlier with their optimistic tone, I think that's a common thing we see from these guys, from projects that they've had some sort of hand in, at least from the Spider-Verse movies, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and 21 and 22 Jump Streets. Oh, and they also made the Lego movie, so it kind of tells you what kind of style they're known for. Similar to the likes of Brad Bird, who was known for animation, and how he was able to carry some of that excitement into Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And I guess it's kind of like Sam Raimi, where it has a very shamelessly optimistic feel, without it having it come off as naive, idealistic, or unrealistic. Also, I gotta give a huge shout out to the writer Drew Goddard, who was the writer of The Martian, and had a creative hand in Cabin in the Woods, and even Buffy the Vampire Slayer, believe it or not. One of my good friends who watches my stuff, she's a big fan of that show, so if you didn't know that, Bethany, here's a little trivia for you. And he also had a creative hand in the Daredevil TV show, so we were obviously in good hands. The way he structures the story through here, and how he was able to translate the book into live action with the help of Phil Lord and Chris Miller. I mean, I'm not a huge expert when it comes to writing a movie, but I have to say, some of the creative choices that were made on both of their parts, I know it's really easy to say this, and I hesitate to use the word masterpiece. To be honest, I don't really like seeing that word thrown around because it just drives me nuts. It's like what Jeremy Johns said back in the days of Breaking Bad, you stop with that hipster bullshit, okay? There's very few pieces of entertainment where I will give them that label. But this one, I'd have to think about it. I might actually give it that title in the long run, depending on how people respond to this. I'm fairly confident about it, but we'll see. As for problems or flaws, I don't really think I have any. Well, actually I take that back. I think the way it ends in the third act, or the last 15 to 20 minutes, it's a little too long at a certain point. As some people have pointed out, it's the Return of the King ending, or as I've come to call it, the Return of the King syndrome. Just when you think it starts to wrap up at a certain point, something happens, and then the movie keeps going. Other movies have done this, like The Batman or Wolf of Wall Street, to name a few. It's not a deal breaker for me, but after a while, I did start to say, okay, can we get to the point already? Can we start to wrap this up? And I won't give away the ending, but where it ends up, I thought was a really wise choice. I didn't think I was gonna like it at first, but, you know, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that, because I promised that I wouldn't give it away, and if I do, well, I want to be a man of my word. So yeah, Project Hail Mary, I really don't have any complaints about this one, and I don't usually grade movies on here, but if I had to grade this would definitely get an A+ or a 5 out of 5 stars. For me, it is that good. A film that is able to look at an end-of-the-world situation through a hopeful and optimistic lens, and not in an unrealistic and naive way. And one of the most endearing bromances that I've ever seen in a movie in years. I'd go as far as to say it's probably my favorite movie that Ryan Gosling has ever done. Given the title of this movie, I have to say, Project Hail Mary.
He's at the 10, he's at the 5, he's in the end zone!
Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts are on this movie down below. If you'd like to see more from me, just hit the like and subscribe buttons, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.